All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Nash. I'm running in California's 48th District against Daryl Issa. And today, I actually have my wife, Nancy, here. And we're going to talk a little bit about a topic that it covers both political aspects, which is why we're doing this here, but it also just covers life in general. And the reason why we're doing this today is my wife recently released a couple of videos related to our journey trying to get pregnant and the difficulties that we've had as such, and just kind of talking through how to make that work. So, Nancy, I'll just ask you, could you give everyone kind of a really brief overview of what's happened over the past few months?
Sure. Just the past few months?
Yeah, let's go there. I will say this just real quick. If you want to see more background to this, I will link to her video. I don't normally try to do any sort of self-promotion or promotion of our businesses, things like that. But in this particular case, because of the subject matter, I am thinking we can go ahead and do that. But again, let's take a look at what are we trying to accomplish now, and what has kind of been the recent past.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Nancy Nash. So I am 43, and we have tried to get pregnant before and not had success. And I have my own kind of reproductive difficulties that I shared in my videos. But so I went back on birth control with my current OBGYN, and I started getting a regular cycle again. And so we were like, maybe we could try to get pregnant. So she referred me to a reproductive endocrinologist. We discovered that in Southern California for Kaiser, there's only one location. That's like an hour and a half from our house, depending on traffic. And so I've been going to regular appointments, taking injections, and going through the process of IUI, or intrauterine insemination, trying to get pregnant. So good summary so far?
I think that's a good summary so far. So, you've kind of released the story, the longer story of this, and obviously we had some difficulties with it, right? We surprisingly to me, I'm sure surprisingly to you as well, the first IUI it worked, and we were pregnant, and that was the coolest thing, right? And then a couple bad things happened, and all of a sudden we're looking at something that was not so positive. Mm-hmm. We ended up having to go to Kaiser for an appointment. They told us that the pregnancy was no longer viable, and that kind of led us to have to make some decisions, and you specifically had to make some tough decisions, because I'm going to support you regardless of what you do. But can you talk us through that appointment, what happened, and what your decision was, the ramifications of it, just personally, and then we can talk about everything else.
Sure.
Afterwards.
Yeah. So I had never been pregnant before. So just saying that everything was totally new. So a couple weeks in, I started having some concerning bleeding. We actually went into urgent care. And, we had some wait time, but it was actually pretty reasonable, I would say. They actually had their system go down, which I'm just thinking this is a little bit relevant in the realm of healthcare overall.
Yes.
But even so, they referred the emergency patients to other sites that they could go get emergency care. And since they didn't deem us an emergency situation, they actually booked me an ultrasound the next day. I went back in. It looked like things were actually developing normally at that point, even though, I had had quite a bit of bleeding. So I went for another ultrasound about 2 weeks later. Still looks like development was going on. And so at 10 weeks, you go for a viability scan. So probably, women who have been pregnant a multiple number of times know that that's like part of the normal process at this point. This is where they put it on the big screen and they give you a printout to take home. That's like the normal thing. They are looking for abnormalities in the pregnancy that you may want to plan for. And the choice would exist at that point to terminate the pregnancy if you had to. But the goal really is to just make sure everything's on track and there's nothing additional that needs to be done. There's supplements that need to be taken, and for myself, because of the way in which this happened and because of my age, they also put you on progesterone just to support the viability of the pregnancy. So we found out at that viability scan that unfortunately the pregnancy was not viable. And even though I'm saying that extremely calmly right now, I was devastated. So
we were devastated. That was horrible.
We were devastated.
That was horrible.
So it happens, right? I am 43. I was well aware that this could happen, just disappointed. So, they bring you to a separate room and discuss your options with you. So I had 3 options. They said, it doesn't look like there has been development for the last couple weeks. So that means that you've had something sitting inside you, that could turn septic. So we could wait it out another week or so, see if your body gets rid of it naturally. And then I would also stop taking the progesterone, which could, be helping my body hold on to the pregnancy, so to speak. Or I could do a DNC, which I kind of elaborately explained in my other video, where they do a procedure and they go and clean out the uterus. Or I could take the medical abortion pills and basically within 24 hours, the pregnancy would be gone. Emotionally, I really wanted my body to stop lying to me. I was so disappointed that, thinking that I'm pregnant and I didn't have a viable pregnancy. So I did choose the medical abortion route. In retrospect, that was a lot more physically difficult than I thought it would be. But I still, I am so grateful that I had access to make all of those choices. And I've thought about that a lot because I know that there are a lot of women out there who haven't had that choice, who were in a much more dire situation than we were.
Right. And I do want to just kind of ask too, and I don't want to get into any graphic details, things like that, but I was with you that night when that pill did what it was intended to do. There was nothing pleasant or redeeming about the process other than it served the medical need.
Right.
Would you do that same process again if needed?
If necessary, for the sake of my own life, in the same situation, yes, but being given the choice to have a DNC, and having had one before with my OBGYN and feeling good about that process, I think I would choose to do that. I think that would still be far less traumatic physically and emotionally.
Sure. And I don't want to speak for you on this, but I never really thought we would be in this type of situation, right? I mean, you and I talk regularly, and I don't think either one of us was ever expecting to get pregnant, just to begin with, especially given our whole history, things like that. Mm-hmm. And then to have it end kind of the way that it did was just so unfortunate, and everything else to be seen if something changes there. But I'm thankful that from the perspective of you being healthy, I'm thankful that the option was there. Mm-hmm. Because it's not there for everybody. And there's a constant push to make it less available for more and more people. Uh-huh. And I've really kind of made a point this particular campaign to not necessarily get into the hot button issues. And what I mean by that are the ones that one party's going to just, dump on the other one about, and vice versa, because there's everyone has their ethics about this sort of thing. And I don't think either one of us love the idea of abortion prior to going through the process.
Right.
But it's a medical procedure. It's something that, in our personal case, I feel like had to be done one way or another. But it's also, as I kind of alluded to in the beginning, it's not my choice, it's yours, right? And we talk about it together. We're in this together, but I actually kind of gave you feedback on what the better path might be in doing the DNC, and you were adamant about doing the pill. You wanted it over with.
Yeah.
So I guess all that to say, one, I'm very much pro-choice. I tend to believe that this is not a choice that I should be making just as a man, even in my own marriage. I think at bare minimum, it's a team decision. But I think reality says your body, you can kind of handle this how you want. And then if we go through this again, you've learned from that and can make a different choice if you choose to. But for other people who aren't in this particular situation, those choices can be based on a lot of different things, and that is okay. And it's not my place as just a man, but it's also not my place as a potential political representative to tell you or anyone else what to do in this realm.
Sure. And it's, an emotional choice, a physical choice, but also a financial choice, because I've also thought about the fact that, like, the medical abortion, is what I chose to do, but, like, it's definitely the cheaper option too.
Sure.
So we have good medical insurance, and we're fortunate that, like, we have an income, where we've been able to pay for the co-payments, but, like, that's huge barrier to consider as well.
Yes.
And
we can get into talk all day about insurance.
Yeah, well, honestly, what I wanted to do, if it's okay, is just give a quick shout out to Planned Parenthood for what they've done for me.
100%. 100%.
Because, it's come to my attention many times that Planned Parenthood is just thought of as an abortion center. So for me, when, I went to school for photography, and when I was working for a photographer, it was not affordable for us to have a healthcare plan for either one of us. So I just didn't have healthcare for like 3, maybe 4 years, which presents a number of barriers. And, there are other things I had trouble paying for. But the thing I didn't have trouble paying for was female care, because Planned Parenthood gave me a payment plan based on my income for my birth control, for my gynecological visits. You don't think of, like, having a UTI or like a yeast infection as like a huge problem, because, well, a lot of us don't think of that in middle class living because we have a way to deal with those things. But, like, when you're scraping pennies together, and I have been in that situation, like, it really matters, if it, how much it costs. Every penny matters. So I was hugely grateful that they supported me through that. Like, that was, like, mainly the only healthcare I was doing. I wasn't even going to the dentist.
And I honestly, I remember you dealing with the aftermath of a couple of those appointments in our early days. And I'm thankful that they were there, because I know you were very uncomfortable at a couple points. So, guys, this topic broaches so many pieces that are just kind of wrong with where we're at as a country right now, right? Not just the politicization of female care, but, how do we handle health insurance? How do we handle our finances so that someone doesn't have to just scrape by? And thankfully these things exist, but how can we create a better country so that everyone has a chance to thrive? And that's kind of the way I look at this. And so that was why I wanted to put all this together, is because I feel like this touches on so many different topics that really make a difference to all of our lives. And, yeah, it's rough to talk about parts of it because, I mean, this is our life. This is something that we actually went through. This is something that as of this recording are still going through. But you put your video out because you wanted to help people. I'm putting this video out, or I'm running this campaign because I also want to help people. And if this video helps clarify how I feel about women's rights, any sort of, LGBTQ type rights, which is not obviously the topic here, but it's related, right? It's about treating everyone with, a level of equality and a level of respect that I feel like is missing from a lot of our country right now. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to go out of my way to actively touch the red button issues this time, because I think I've said it before, nothing's changed. What we're talking about now is how do we make everyone else's life a little bit better so that we can all stop focusing on the bullshit that divides us. So
there's one other thing I kind of want to add, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Just in the realm of like basic female healthcare, access to birth control, I think is so essential. Gynecological visits as well as part of that. I was never just given birth control. There was always an evaluation, but for myself, I, had really painful, very long periods, and I had ovarian cysts when I was young, which put my reproductive system at risk. And so I was put on birth control pretty quickly, long before I was sexually active, as a means of helping my hormonal system. I still haven't sorted out all of what is going on with me hormonally. It's continued to be something that, they do testing about and we try to figure out, but just to even have access to birth control, to be able to be a working member of society that didn't have 3 periods of a month, that's kind of a big deal. Like, just to be able to function, and like, I don't take that for granted. I really think that that's an essential part of healthcare.
And I know there's been talk in the past, and I know it's died down a little bit about, Project 2025, trying to get rid of birth control. I'm not trying to, let me just say this. Those things may be real, they may be fake, but I will say this: if I'm in office, I will do everything in my power to make sure that those things stay real for as long as I can possibly hold on. That's the best I can give you guys. I will do my absolute best. So, thanks for talking to me about this.
Yeah, thanks for talking about this. It's important.
I think we did a good job.
I don't know. We put Max to sleep, so maybe we need.
Yeah, I think he's awake. Hi, buddy.
Everything puts Max to sleep.
Well, except for, the words that he's looking for right now.
Yeah.
So, thanks for listening, everybody. Again, I'm Brian Nash. I'm running for California's 40th district. This is my wife, Nancy. Her videos, I'll make sure I link to them. Again, I'm not doing this for any sort of personal gain. I'm literally doing it with these videos because of the educational value that they provide. So, any questions, certainly leave me some comments. Meet me out in anywhere in CA48. I'm happy to have that conversation with you or talk about anything else that may be on your mind. So thank you so much and have a good day.